safety work and working safely. Just talk through those two definitions for us.
Yeah, sure. So safety of work is kind of what goes on for the people doing the work. That's frontline operational safety, if you like. And then that's the safety of work. And then safety work is all the other stuff that you might read on a job description, that you might look at in a management system, that you would see in an audit, or that a regulator would look for. So that's all of the audits and assessments and inspections and training and all the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the distinction. Now those things all serve a purpose. They all exist. They've been created for some reason. It's just a question of us being clear on whether those things actually do relate to or contribute to the safety of work or not. And in some instances, when we create safety work, we actually increase risk. We actually reduce the safety of frontline work. So an example of that is the amount of inductions, for example, that people have got to go through will often compress the amount of time they've actually got to do a job. That creates risk. And construction sites are good examples of that, where you've got principal contractors and sometimes clients and multiple stakeholders, multiple inductions, online inductions and then on-site inductions and all that sort of stuff. So that's a simple kind of example. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but sometimes that's the trade-off, and that's the unintended trade-off. And so I think us being conscious about what is this that's in front of us? Is it safety work or is it the safety of work? And then what are we doing to contribute to those? I think it's an important question to ask.
So in terms of asking those questions, if we go, one step forward to more about what we're pushing here at Best Practice, and if we talk about culture, and this is the culture of safety leaders and the culture of leaders in general, and then the culture of the people out in the field, what are your thoughts around, if we had, there's an argument that if we had great culture and we had great behaviours, we wouldn't need all this stuff in the first place. Where's that at in industry at the moment?
Yeah. So I think one of the interesting things that this research has tapped into is this idea that culture is kind of a nebulous concept in lots of ways. So lots of people talk about it, not a lot of people really understand it, and I'm in that category of I don't know that I understand it enough in order to actually make a true difference in it, in a way that I think you can actually connect your effort and the outcome. So a lot of the organisational research has actually moved on from culture, and they're looking at this concept of institutional logics. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of that, but the basic idea is that we apply logic for certain things, and some of those logics are shared within our organisation. So within work groups, within teams, within whole organisations. So if we become as professionals, as systems professionals or safety professionals, understanders of logic, interpreters of logic, if we understand the rationale behind why people are doing things and why we're doing things, then it enables us to change the way we work. So an example of that might be, it's logical that we have a system that generates non-conformances, that generates actions that create safety clutter. That's logical. So if we understand that and we kind of get a common understanding of that, then we can start to challenge the logic and we can go, okay, right, well, does that connect with an outcome? And so I think that from my point of view, if we start to understand more about logics, which is the rationale for the way people work, I find that far more practical, I think, is the right word, practical, for us to kind of wrap our hands around it and understand it and then do something about it. And I think that goes to all different aspects of safety in particular. So if you look at things like culture and leadership and human error and investigations and things going wrong or whatever, I was doing some work with a client recently where they were looking at motor vehicle risk, and we went through that process of looking at incidents, and they were really keen to understand what were some of the causes and error, individual decision making, self-awareness, all that sort of stuff came up. And then I asked everyone in the room whether they've ever gotten in their car and then arrived at their destination and not really known what's happened in between. And everyone puts their hand up, right? And so I said, so it's interesting when we think about the logic that goes into us making sense of our investigations, because the very thing that makes us successful in that driving process where we got there okay is the very thing, when we're on automatic pilot, that can contribute to things going wrong. But our logic says, oh, well, someone made a decision in that. Someone was conscious about that. And so it just goes to show that we don't quite understand what's going on up here. So when we break it down into trying to understand the logics that's behind things, which aren't always conscious, I think that makes it far more tangible for us to take action on.